Welcome back, Biscuit Nation.
Today we're going to make a free coffee table. Well, almost free, except for the hardware. I got the wood free. My brother was going to throw it out, so we made a coffee table.
Yeah.
We even got to use Cathy's favorite tool,
the planer.
Stay tuned. Okay, let's have some fun. First thing I want to do is get started on the top. I've got a very long, very wide, about 14-inch board. It's hardwood of some kind, but it's got a wicked cup in it. So I'm going to select the best pieces of this that are at least 40 inches long, so I have enough to cut for the finished size, which is going to be 18 by 38. And we're going to rip these down into narrow strips and then join the edges and glue them together so we have a nice flat hard top. Even though it's going to be rustic after it's all finished up, it's going to have nail holes in it. I think it'll be really nice on this piece.
Oh my gosh, this is my favorite tool ever. You can take a nasty, dirty, old piece of wood, put it through, and watch it come out the other side. Beautiful. No, not really. You do have to do it a couple different times to get all that nastiness off, but it's just such a cool thing to watch.
And besides making it pretty, you make it flat, which is important for the rest of the process. Finally, we get to make some biscuits. So I've got the top boards face down on my workbench, and what I'm going to do is just make sure that I've marked them all so I know exactly where they go after I get the biscuits cut. I've clamped just a straight edge to use as a fence so I can push with my biscuit joiner against it and go ahead and cut those biscuit slots. I always use a brush to get complete coverage of my glue on the surfaces. I always put a little bit of glue right in the biscuit slot so that the biscuit is no longer dry. The biscuits don't have to be dry now. A little bit of clamping pressure. See all that glue coming out of there? I always like to wipe it while it's wet because it makes for a lot less sanding later. And I use a lot of clamps on both sides so it makes nice even pressure, and the top is going to be nice and flat when we're all done here. Once the glue sets up, I go ahead and trim it to the finished dimension. I have a straight edge clamp to the piece, and I use some masking tape so we don't have tear out, and then I just use a nice sharp blade with my circular saw to cut both ends to a finished length of 38 inches. So the planer was the perfect tool to use on the oak that we used for the top. I think it was oak. It might have been ash. It was too munged up and old, been sitting in a barn forever, but the planer was perfect for that. So we ran some of the other old molding through, and we thought we would be so surprised and impressed. But what happened?
It was green.
It was hideous.
Yucky shade of green. Do you see the green tint?
Like Kermit the Frog, not easy being green. So I don't know if you can see it. It was like treated wood. I guess it was some poplar or tulip, something just green. Nice hard wood, but not good for staining. So we scrapped that idea, and what we found was that the finish back in the day that the old timers did was actually like a painted on wood grain sort of look. So we just stuck with that. We cleaned it up a little bit, and with our finish it looked beautiful. Here I am measuring for the legs and the skirt. I'm actually going to build this kind of like with rails and stiles. Here I'm just going to cut all the legs to length. I've got a stop block set up to make quick work of that at the miter saw. At the front and the back, the width of the legs is going to be 3 inches, and on the sides it's only going to be 2 1/4 because we have to allow for the 3/4 of an inch thickness of the board, which will come to 3 inches at the sides when we assemble the corners.
I love to do the pocket holes, which is how we're going to make our joints. When you look at the wood, you can see the greenish tint to it.
When I do my pocket hole assembly, I like to take just a piece of plywood on my workbench and clamp the pieces that I am actually screwing together right down to that piece of plywood. It makes for a real nice tight joint. It's especially important on this project because we can't sand it. I don't want to sand the finish off. So that finished side needs to be nice and smooth.
As the screws go in, you can see the glue squirting out a little bit, and we'll make sure that we wipe that clean because again, we don't want to do any sanding on the finished side.
Here you can see the drawer openings in either the front or the back piece. This is what it looks like one end piece. I've just got the grain turned so it kind of has a panel look in the center of it. I'm gonna again spread the glue on all the mating surfaces and screw it together. Using Craig 1¼ fine tooth pocket screws for these since it is a hardwood. I've got everything clamped together, the sides to the front, so I can drive those pocket screws in. Again, the corner is very flushed up because we don't want to do any sanding later. 3 pocket screws along the meaty part of the project will be plenty. Below the sides at the bottom, I'll just use a clamp with no wood screws because they would be visible. So the glue is going to do all the work at the bottom.
Like Kevin says, you can never have too many clamps.
Now we can't let that green wood show where I ripped the legs to the right width. So we're going to have to sort of make our own veneer from some of the other scraps. So I just cut like a 3/4 inch by 3/4 inch piece that we will glue onto the side of the leg.
Here Kevin is assembling the drawer boxes, and you can see he's using the positioning squares to clamp the pieces together. This assures that we'll have a perfectly square box.
And then I clamp it all together and drive in a couple of pocket screws.
This is what the assembly looks like without the top and the drawers in.
Unfortunately, I forgot to film the part where I made the bracing for the drawers to ride on. It's just a board that goes straight across and then a little piece along each side.
I think it's pretty clever that the drawers slide open either way. It is a coffee table and you can get stuff out of either side.
For the finish on this piece, what we did was took some dark walnut Minwax stain and I stained over the whole piece and then wiped it off right away. That way any scuffs that had occurred over the years or that happened during the build were all nice and dark. Then I put on several coats of a clear shellac and it's beautiful.
And since we got the wood from Kevin's brother and he just recently got married, we gave the table to them. This was such a rewarding project that we did. We were given this wood that normally would have been in the landfill or in a burn pile somewhere, but yet we were able to make something really beautiful for them.
And it was totally free, so except for the hardware that I spent like 20 bucks on, which was kind of expensive, but Cathy liked it a lot.
Yeah.
It was a free coffee table. So we weren't lying. When we said free coffee table,
It was free.
free. So until next time,
Like and subscribe.
and hit the bell, leave a comment here, not on Facebook, leave a comment here. It helps the algorithm on the YouTube. But also, until next time,
Keep your biscuits dry.